right, what's up, everybody? It is Gym Therapy Inc. Sunday, August 20th already, and I will be your host. We're going to be talking about personal inventory. I'm Justin, and to my right I have
Alyssa,
Trista,
Ryan
Wagner, our new guest. Ryan, very introspective person. Whenever I was going through a lot of troubles, we had conversations. We only talked about 4 or 5 times, but I was probably 4 or 5 hours, in time. And I've learned a lot from him. Ryan is a coworker with my oldest brother, Joe, who is a lot more introspective and intuitive than what he'd let you believe. But Ryan, you own a nonprofit. You established a nonprofit at one time.
No, I just work at it.
You just work at it. Okay.
Yeah.
What is it?
Heroes Supporting Heroes, and our mission is to increase the quality of life in veterans as they get older.
Okay.
I love
Awesome.
that.
you're a
Awesome.
veteran, I'm assuming. No? Okay.
Even better. How about that?
Yeah,
Somebody from the
even better.
outside stepping in. I think that's one of the most important things about our message is you don't have to necessarily be in the mud to give people advice, but if you spend any time there or with people, an outside perspective, you want to learn from the outside so you can help people, like the friends and family of addicts, the friends and family of people with mental health struggles. You need to learn how to speak to them, and you need to learn how to help them along. So that's very commendable. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm just a
Where do
cog
I
in
go
the
from here?
process. That's it.
Yeah, but without that cog, the whole machine can sometimes fall down. So,
Yes, sir.
All right. Trista, what do we got going on this week?
pretty easy week. Gym, regular business. Coming up with a new class.
class?
Not yet. They start on September 11th. We have a kids class, after school program, and a new adult program for beginners. So I'm excited about that. Looking forward to it and gearing up for a little vacation for myself before that happens. So that's a pretty quiet week.
Pretty quiet week.
Yeah.
Good. Where are you going on vacation?
I don't want to talk about it.
All right, that's right.
It's none of your business.
Is it
Your
Commodore?
business.
Are you going to Commodore?
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. All right, Les, what's going on?
Got hurt a couple of different times at work in the last 2-3 weeks. Got kicked in the back twice on Wednesday just this past week. Sprained my elbow, sprained my thumb. A lot of stuff going on at work because I feel like I'm just always there. I'm not anywhere else. And I find myself watching the stories and the videos that you post on Facebook, and I'm literally in tears because I'm not there anymore. And it hurts that I don't make time to actually be there.
So you gotta schedule out work. If I can tell you anything I've learned in this story of life, is don't give everything to work, because you are replaceable within a day. You have to remember that. Like, when you give 100% of yourself to work and don't have a life outside of work, you're making money, but when do you actually get to enjoy it?
Yeah.
So
And I
do
don't.
things to take time and say, like, if you're offered overtime, like, hey, I appreciate that you thought of me, but I need a day to myself.
Yeah.
And you got to take it, because it does. If that's all you do, it wears on your psyche.
I walk right through the gate, and a lot of times my supervisors are in the smoke shed, and the smoke shed is right by where the gate is for us to walk in. And as soon as I walk in, they're like, Alyssa, can you sign up for this shift and this shift and this shift? Or I need you to sign up for overtime or whatever.
That people-pleasing part of you, too,
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
allow you to say no. What's your shift usually, 3 to 11?
3 to 11, but 4 days a week I do 11 to 11. Ooh, might be 5 some weeks.
Your whole day's ruined then.
Because it's 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. So by the time I get home and decompress and actually take a shower and fall asleep, it's 12:30, 1 o'clock. I don't want to get up at 4 to go to the gym to be there at 6 or, what have you. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot. Why don't you find a gym close?
Well, there is a CrossFit gym in Blairsville. I'm not sure what the name of it is, but I do know that there is one.
Okay, cool.
I don't know that there is one in Blairsville anymore.
That may be the case.
But there's a gym in Derry. We passed it when we were going to my niece's graduation party. So
Okay.
had a strange name. When we drove by it, we were like, what? But it's in like a pole barn building, and it's worth looking into, even if it's closer.
Yeah.
They might have the same kind of community we have. You just have to look for it.
A couple people that I work with do go to, I think it's like the Blairsville Community Center or something, but it's open 24/7 and it's like $35 a month. So it's pretty cheap.
Yeah. A communal workout program is significantly better for myself and for a lot of people, I think, than just going to the gym, pumping out a couple couple bench presses, a few curls,
That's
and
in our
then
face. I got it.
Ryan, what's going on with you?
Fresh off of vacation, we went to the New River Gorge this last week as a family in
Where's that?
I love that place.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
And we got hooked up with some, it was water park for the kids Sunday, zip lining Monday, whitewater rafting Tuesday, mountain biking on Wednesday, and then I tend to build wheelchair ramps while I'm on vacation.
Why wouldn't you? I love
So-
it.
Of all things.
Do you want to slide just a little bit in here? So
Yeah, so most people take a decompression vacation,
yeah,
and I just tend to build wheelchair ramps for people that need it.
That's awesome.
Sounds good.
that's great, commendable. Restlessness sometimes I learned this week to not be so restless, and that's one thing. I've never built wheelchair ramps, but a lot of times when I'm on vacation, I'm walking around. I'm not exactly just relaxing, but that is a way to relax. But I learned something this week. If you're drilling for water and you drill 150-foot hole, you have a higher chance of getting water than you do when you drill for 5-10-foot holes.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really important because I'll start 9 projects at one time and never finish anything.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
There's an analogy of going to the woods with an axe. You know, do you go to the woods and pick 50 trees and take one swing at 50 trees? Or do you take one tree and take 50 swings on it?
Yes,
Mhm.
very fair. Very fair.
Yeah. But you can't hear the tree falling if you're not in the woods.
How are the mountain biking trails? Are they great?
Yeah, the one was pretty sketchy, I'll
Yeah?
admit.
Good.
My son is 11 and his best friend is 15, and we ended up on like a black diamond
Ooh.
bicycle trail, and then we get partway through after he almost like goes over the cliff because it is like really a horse trail.
hmm
And he was like, "Hey, Dad, I forgot to put my contacts in. I can't see."
Oh, get out of here.
And I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
I thought we had this conversation before we left the house. And he was hitting some of the loose rocks and fishtailing because it's pretty steep up and down. And to me, he was going like 30 miles an hour downhill on the loose rocks. And then you like one misstep and he would go, gravity
Yeah.
always wins,
Yeah,
right?
gravity always wins.
And I was like, oh, we got to find a safer trail. And then we ended up finding like some easy like Bunny Hill trails.
Yeah.
No,
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
I need to stop clicking that pen. So you guys want to get into it?
Let's do
Let's do
it.
it.
Talking about personal inventory, and this can be a tough subject for anybody. I do believe whenever you take personal inventory, you know, if you're taking the inventory of a store, you're not just counting what's good, what's bad, what's sold, what's not. You're counting everything. And good stress is equally important as bad stress. And personal inventory is something I think we could all use a little bit of time. You don't want to live in it, but you do want to do it once in a while to make sure you are on the right track.
Yeah,
I
for
believe
sure.
so.
Mhm.
And I'm excited.
Personal inventory comes in a lot of different ways. I've been in NA and AA several times, and the 4th step talks about taking a personal inventory of yourself. And a lot of times, whenever people do, like NA has a whole workbook on you do your 1st step, there's like 100 and some questions. Your 2nd step has 100 and some questions, and so on. And a lot of times, when the people that are actually really doing their step work, going over things with their sponsor, they get they get to the 4th step, and now they got to look at themselves rather than everything that's going on the outside. And there's probably more people that when they get to the 4th step relapse than there is that keep going.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because they're scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was something you wanted to talk about today was personal inventory, and I think the 4th step actually came up. Was that whenever we were talking this week? So that was good, Les. You didn't even know.
Imagine that.
And Tristan, do you want to talk a little bit how personal inventory is not just about alcoholism? It's not just about drugs. It's about your mental health.
Well, I think you have to identify the things that work and don't work in your life. And that can be with relationships. That can be with family members. It can really be with anything, and mental health as well. Like if you are repeating things that you know are constantly not good for your health, and you're like, oh, I go into this shame spiral or I go into this spiral, you have to have ways to talk that back. I know for me, one thing that is a struggle for me is like eating bad foods, because it's something in my life that like I try to not live. And like last night we ate pizza, And I remember like back in the day, like having like this whole shame spiral after eating something bad. And now I'm like, okay, you work hard 6 days a week. Having a one night eating pizza is not going to ruin your diet. It's not going to make you don't need to go in this shame spiral. We're not doing this anymore. And openly having those conversations in my head. And like, that's a mental health struggle.
Mhm.
When you go into a shame cycle for eating pizza, that's something that you have to inventory. And I think it's with anything, it doesn't have to be about addiction. It can be just with something that that takes you into a bad place.
Man, if I went into a shame cycle just for eating pizza, I'd have to have somebody like ride behind me with the bell. Shame, shame.
Like the swear jar.
Yeah, like
Oh,
the swear
God.
jar.
Pretty much.
Improper thought, 25 cents. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and we talked about this last week was generational trauma.
Mhm.
And I think trauma is a tough word whenever it comes to stuff like this, because trauma is such an intense word,
Mhm.
and it's a trigger word, and it's also a word that a lot of people would be like, nerd, you don't have trauma, you just got picked on a little bit or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that there's different levels of traumatic experiences. And I was listening to a book this week called What Happened to You, written by Bruce Perry. And he's one of the best psychiatrists in the world. I absolutely love him. Wrote a couple of different books. And he said that this week. And I was like, man, I've been thinking this for years, but to hear somebody else say the exact same thing, it really
Mhm.
like gave me a little bit of validation that, man, we do know what we're talking about in a lot of ways. And I thought that was pretty good. And that, one of the reasons I had want to have you, Ryan, on here is because you're so introspective and you're into this mental health thing. And do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and thank you for asking.
Sure.
So you and I think a lot alike.
Sure.
And there are things that you look back on retrospect, right? And we're dealing with this, we're feeling this, but it doesn't necessarily have a label or a title or a name. It's almost like it's like the elephant in the room, but you don't know how to describe it, right? So then when we find these people that actually call it something, you can identify it, right? So like in what I openly struggle with, in now that I've been sober for over 5 years, I can look back at my life at the trauma, right? And my roommate committed suicide July 10th in 2000.
Sorry to hear that.
Yes.
And it was like a kick in the shins, and I couldn't explain it. And I can remember being at the bar shortly thereafter, and I was feeling crappy and crummy and grieving, angry, all these negative emotions. And I can remember sitting at the bar there was probably about 8 of us. It was our hometown bar, and we were all drinking Bud Light, and I was kind of peeling my label, and everybody was quiet because we didn't know how to communicate, right? Because we're 21 years old, we're men, and we don't know how to communicate. And I was peeling back the label on my Bud Light, and I just threw it out there as just a question for the masses. Hey, are you guys feeling like this? And I tried to get this like more in detail out of my mouth.
Was it more men or more women or both?
It was all men.
Okay.
And
These are all friends of the.
really, really good friends. Like
Yeah.
we're tight. We're 21 years old, running feral. As
Right,
21
yeah.
year
But
old
we're
men
you're
do.
21-year-old men. Like
That's
we're
probably
going to
the best
talk about
way
our
to describe
feelings
it.
today, kind of thing.
Correct.
How does that fit in?
And one of my friends, and I couldn't even see who it was, said, "We're men. We don't talk about our feelings, Ryan." And I was like, "All right, I need 10 more beers because today is not the day to talk about feelings." I
Sure.
guess.
Usually they come out after 10 beers, though.
You would think.
They can, anyways.
It would be more fighting than
Yeah, that's probably fair.
But that was something that I held within me because I didn't know an avenue to talk about it. I didn't have an avenue to talk positive. I don't know who my friend, one of my friends, which friend said that. I just know it was said.
Mhm.
It was like a community feeling.
Correct.
And that's a really sad response to get when you're in that bottom low feeling and you need support, because grief is so hard and it's such a complex, layered struggle. And to reach out and ask basically like, are you feeling this? I need help. And to be shut down I'm sorry that you dealt with that, because that's really sad. And that's when people are at their absolute lowest, is when they're grieving.
Correct. And we were talking about the grief spiral. And this took me a long time to talk about, but I'm essentially an 80s kid, right? So anybody that knows the General Lee and Dukes of Hazzard,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
my mindset was in such a place. I was in such a trough, or if you picture a line graph, I was way down, right? Where I wanted to commit suicide because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I was reaching out for people that either weren't picking up my cues, like you were talking about a couple weeks ago. I'm giving you a roadmap on how you respond or how you can talk to me. And I was leaving breadcrumbs up until this point, right?
Yeah.
And I think God knew that I only needed a 4-cylinder Dodge Dakota because I had planned out, like, methodically. I didn't leave a note, but I had probably drank about a 12-pack. And in northern Minnesota, there's water everywhere, right? There's bridges, there's water, there's ponds, there's swamps. And I devised a plan, and this is probably 2 months, maybe a month after my roommate committed suicide, that I am going to drink a 12-pack of beer. I am purposely not going to wear my seatbelt, and I was going to do the old Dukes of Hazzard General Lee in a 1997 Dodge Dakota. And I can remember I was in 5th gear. I'm looking down at my speedometer, trying to get as much speed as I can.
I see what you're saying now.
And my truck could only do 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need this thing to go faster. I need to get more air. So then if I don't die on impact, the water was going to be my plan B, and I was going to drown. Like, worst case scenario, I'd knock myself unconscious and I was going to drown. And I can remember this very, very vividly. In tears were coming down, like I was hysterically crying at the same time. Like, I'm 21 years old. I should be in the prime of my life, but I'm feeling all of this, and I don't know how to get it out.
Sure.
Right? I'm in the best shape of my life. At that moment in time, I could bench press 395 pounds.
Woo!
Wow.
I was riding 10 miles a day on my pedal bike. And even that physical exertion, I wasn't able to give it an outlet, right? So this was my only out to stop the pain, to stop that mental quagmire of crap. And I was like, today's not that day. And I got to the other side of the bridge, pulled over. I'm still crying. Parked my truck, and I made a vow to myself and God, and I said, this will never happen again. And I was like, I can get myself out of this crap, but I don't know how. I know I can get myself out of this, but I don't have the tools to be successful to pull myself out, right? So then that's when, and this is before Google, this is before smartphones. I think I had a flip phone,
You said this is around 2002, 2001?
2000.
2000.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't put my finger on it, but this is the elephant in the room on how I am feeling. And then it took some years of self psychoanalysis and trying to talk to as many people as I could, subject matter experts, pastors. Like, I can remember meeting with a copious amount of pastors, like, this is what's going on. This is the trauma, and in reality, I was probably suffering from survivor's remorse, PTSD.
Were you at the same time still drinking too, though?
Oh, copious amounts.
Yes.
Like,
Okay.
I couldn't drink enough. People used to ask me, how much did you have to drink last night? As I'm hungover at work.
Mm-hmm.
My response would be all of it.
Oh, you just drank everything in your house till it was gone? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So, drinking copious amounts of alcohol is one of my gifts. I don't pass out. I just keep going like the Energizer Bunny. You know, whether it's a case of beer, a bottle of Jim Beam, whatever that looks like, I, I, I drink until I get tired.
Yeah.
It's not till I drink till I pass out.
Yeah.
You know, and then I found out about this thing called suicide bereavement. And it, in studies that I've read, you know, according to Google and things like that, websites, that 1 in 6 people suffer from suicide bereavement after a friend passes away. Well, and if you think of it, how many people carry a casket?
6.
I was one of those 6 that carried my friend's casket because the decision that he made, it was a closed casket. I couldn't get closure from him passing away.
You're like
Because you
pulling every heartstring that I have right now because I'm feeling every single thing that you are describing when I lost my best friend. The same exact thing.
I would go, you know, when I would do and I openly admit this, that I would do a lot of drinking to forget. And I would go to his headstone and I would bring my Busch Light or whatever, Bud Light, and I would be sitting in the cemetery and I would, you know, do one of these numbers and then I would put it underneath the grass. So I don't know how many tabs of beer cans are buried in the grass at his headstone, but there's a bunch. And fast forward, you know, see, it's 5 years ago, I had to do the 12 steps because I was the epitome of the definition of insanity. I would start drinking to forget.
Step 2.
And then I knew I was an alcoholic, right? Step 1 was easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was working the 12 steps, I was like, man, this is a piece of cake. I went to the school of hard knocks. I've been drinking hard since I was 17. At the age of 17, I could drink a liter of vodka by myself. When all my buddies were like drinking 2, 3, you know, the 6-pack Joes, you know, and that was their fix. That was good enough for them. Well, you know, I had to be an overachiever and drink a whole liter of vodka by myself.
I read an analogy a few weeks ago. This guy said, I'm so excited for football. I want to gamble so bad I'm shaking. And someone said, do you think you might have an addiction problem? He's like, listen, I've been gambling every day since I was 20. I would know if I had an addiction. And I think that's what a lot of alcohol, like a lot of daily type alcoholics really like. I could stop. I just don't want to. Well, that don't want to is, I mean, that's alcoholism.
Absolutely.
Correct. And when I was 17, I used to drink for fun. You know, post my friend committing suicide, that was drinking to cope.
Yeah, drinking because you kind of had to. Yeah.
I used alcohol to fill that void. I worked the 12 steps, and yeah, I did write everything down in a notebook, and I worked everything through. But like I said, I went through the 12 steps with the school of hard knocks mentality where it was easy. Yeah. And 6 months later, I was still sober, but I just didn't feel like I connected the dots during the 12 steps. And I called my sponsor.
You did the 12 steps in 6 months?
No.
Oh.
But 6 months later, after
I
working the 12 steps, I called my sponsor again, and I was like, I don't feel any different. Like, what do you recommend as a sponsor? And he was like, hey, dummy, work the 12 steps again because you missed it. You missed something in there. So then when I worked the 12 steps again, like what you put in, you get out, right? So I'll never forget, I had a notebook, much like you have on the table right now, and I reworked the steps. And when it came down to the moral inventory, I started crying so hard. I was leaving tear marks on my notebook because I never forgave myself. I never forgave my friend for committing suicide. And I was looking back during those 12 steps, looking back at the last night that I got drunk. And my sober date is July 20th. And
so today marks something because today's the 20th.
Yeah, so
5 years in 1 month.
5 years in 1 month.
Nice.
Yep. So the last night that I got drunk, we had just signed a mortgage. So I now had a house with my name on it. And now that I see it in retrospect, that house was the last missing piece of everything that I once owned before I was divorced.
Mm.
That house was now mine up until I got divorced, which I drank myself out of. I drank myself out of my marriage because I didn't know how to cope. But that house was the missing piece to make me complete again. And I was drinking to remember that night. I was drinking to remember all the positive memories. I was trying to just be gracious. And that night, I was so happy. Like, I finally have a house. I finally have people that love me. I was looking at things in the materialistic world, but ultimately, I felt complete that night. And I was drinking to celebrate. And I drank my case of beer.
It's a lot.
Then,
Mhm.
I
then
mean,
But then I found my secret stash of Jim Beam
Oh, gee whiz.
in a Rubbermaid tote because my mind can't stop, right?
yeah.
I'm going to go until I finish. And then I finished off my secret bottle of Jim Beam. And then I found a box of wine in the refrigerator. And I finished that. And it was then 2 in the morning. I was like, I once again drank the house dry of all the alcohol. It's probably time for me to go to bed. But then, of course, I was 41 years old and hangovers aren't as easy as they used to be.
Yeah.
And I was laying in bed hungover for 2 days. And in those 2 days, I was essentially, my missus, who I love very much, she was like, you're a better human being than this.
Mm.
You need to be a better husband. You need to be a better father. You need to stop drinking. Otherwise, I'm out. And I laid in bed and I'm like, I can't even get out of bed right now because I'm so hungover. I drank that much alcohol. And it wasn't until I was faced with my loved ones leaving that I was like, I got to pull my head out of my ass. I have to be who God made me to be.
Mm.
I can't be addicted to a substance that is overpowering and overwhelming. I'm not living up to my potential. I am not living the best version of myself. And that's ultimately what made me, having that cranium intrusion of the rectum. But July 20th, I was like, I need to be the best version of myself.
Mm.
I need to serve others. Because that's my gift, right? That's my love language. I need to serve people. I need to make you a better person. I need to make you a better person. And that's how I look at things in a different lens now of I just want other people to be the best version of themselves.
And it seems like you didn't think you were deserving or worthy until you realized that you had people that depended on you, that loved you. You had a home to call your own. Until that worth showed up, you didn't feel like you deserved it. And that's pretty incredible. And I love that she made you realize that you are worth it, but you have to do the work or I'm not staying.
Yeah.
And that's a good partner.
Yeah,
to
Instead
show
of
up like
screaming at each other back and
Congratulations,
forth and
yeah.
all that stuff, that's great that she was able to say, hey, you know what? Look, this is an issue and you need to fix it. And I'm here to help you if you want me to help you fix it.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Congratulations.
Absolutely.
This is a big, that's huge to be able to. I read Russell Brand's, he's a little eccentric, but his book, he said his psychiatrist said to him, he said, I was a sex addict, drug addict, all that. And she said, congratulations on finding something to keep you alive, though. And you're here now. Now is when we fix the problem.
Yeah. And, when I was laying in bed hungover thinking about life in general, the highest blood count that I've ever had on record, and I've had it at other festivals or wherever I would choose. But the highest blood alcohol content on record was a 0.36.
Jeez. That's, 0.4 is death.
Yeah.
And that was a rain day. Like I had my first beer at noon with my cheeseburger. And they took my blood alcohol content at 8:00 at night.
Jesus, dude. And you were just walking around still.
And you're functional.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I drink a 6-pack and I'm not functional. I just want
Same,
to sit.
yeah. She
Yeah.
is.
But that, like, I was arrested because of the poor decision that I made.
Mhm.
And the nurse was like, "What kind of drugs are you on?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "You have to be on something." And I'll never forget this conversation. You know, and that was 2004. And I pulled up my sleeves and I was like, "Ma'am, I'm trying to be as respectful as I can, even though I'm completely intoxicated." And I was like, "Ma'am, I don't have any track lines from needles." You know, meth was just starting to become a thing then. I'm not on heroin. I don't do anything. And I said, "My dad told me to pick something in life and be really good at it. And I chose drinking." I was like, I can't help it.
Yeah.
Like, this is complete. This is something that I have no control of, but I'm really good at it. And she was like, "You should be dead right now." And she goes, what do you think your blood alcohol content was?" And I was like, "What time is it?" She said, "It's 8 o'clock at night." So I started doing the math. I said, 8 hours drinking, I'm probably low twos. She goes, "Guess again." And I was like, "All right, high twos." You know, we're able to have this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, and you're able to remember it.
And she was like, "Hey, dummy, you're 0.369. You should be dead." And I was like, "Well, do I have the record?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Out of way.
So
369, damn, she's fine.
and she was like, You would have had the record, but we had a person in here drinking Listerine straight out of the bottle.
Good.
And they were a 0.4. And I was like,
I kind of want to jump into what you said because you were saying that your dad said pick something and be good at it, and you picked drinking. I was a heroin addict for going on 15 years, and I wasn't good at it at all.
Do you
It
want
was my
to?
favorite thing to do, yes, but I wasn't good at it.
Do
I
you
had
want
to have
to?
someone else do it for me most days.
Yeah. Do you want to? That's a good thought. Do you want to pick it up on the second half? We'll
Yeah,
take a
let's
little
do
break
it.
right now.
Yeah.
That was a lot. So let's just take a little break and use the facilities if we have to. But we'll be right back. Okay. All right, we're back. Second half. Usually I joke with people and say, "Hey, tell us your deepest, darkest secret," as soon as they get on here, and it makes them kind of an icebreaker, and they joke around, and then, man, you did. That was pretty
You didn't
incredible.
you didn't have to say it. You didn't
I
have to
didn't
tell
even
it.
have to. No,
No.
that was pretty incredible.
But in your notes, it tells, you know, you said own your story, good and bad. You know, that's who I am.
Yeah.
I have to be transparent to make a difference in people's lives.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and most importantly, you have to be transparent to yourself.
Yeah.
You have to. That's something I struggle with. That's something I have to work on. I kind of, well, that doesn't matter. That's different me.
Yeah, people are like, why do you post all this personal stuff on Facebook? And why do you tell the world about this and that and the third? Well, because if other people didn't tell me that it could be possible, then I wouldn't know that it's possible because I hear and see the possibilities and the dreams that people overcome through social media nowadays because that's just
easiest
how
way
it
to
happens.
communicate.
Yeah. So if my story is going to help 1 out of 8 million people, then I did my job. You know, that's literally what I set out to do. I don't post all these accomplishments on Facebook because I want to be like everyone. Oh, good job. Good. I'm very proud of you. I mean, I appreciate it, sure, but that's not why I put the
But you
things on
should.
Facebook.
But you should also.
Well,
and like we
that's-
need
yeah.
to remind people that it's okay to do that too. To like be proud of something that you did and be like,
Sure.
I'm gonna post this out there because this deserves to be acknowledged. I worked really hard for this. There's nothing wrong with that. But like as women, for some reason, we're conditioned to be like, this just stays small. People don't need to know about this accomplishment,
Right.
whatever. Be
Right.
proud of it. Own it. Yeah, hell yeah. You deserved it. You worked hard for it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna share your vulnerabilities and your struggles, then you deserve to be able to have a platform to share your successes. Because if people can come in and they can give you advice in your lowest state, they should be able to high five you and congratulate in your highest. And
Yeah.
you deserve that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Humble pride.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That's tough. I'm a lot the same way when we post stuff on Facebook because we have an Instagram, we have a Facebook page, and then we have like a community where we kind of just pick on each other page, and then I have my personal one. And man, it's a lot. Trisha, trying to post on Facebook, make reels, that sort of stuff. And
So much work.
sometimes when you do something good, you don't want to be like, I don't want to be braggy about it. I'm not doing it for like attention. It is to let people know, like, one, we're starting to get qualifications, and you can contact us if you need anything. And plus, we're a hub for helping people. You come to us and we'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I struggled, shortly thereafter me wanting to commit suicide is I felt like I was alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was on Mars, because it went back to that conversation when I was bellied up at the bar with my buddies. Like, if my buddies won't even let me talk about my feelings, who will?
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like I was from Mars for a very long time. Like, I was alone. I had that third eyeball on my forehead. I don't know how to deal with it.
Did you end up going to treatment, or you just stopped?
I just stopped. I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most incredible things about that, and we find suicide happens. Trista, you said one time about somebody had like the best week of their life before they committed suicide. When you're in that 2-day hangover, when you're in that post drug withdrawal, or you're with that super low depression, you're actually safe there. You're actually safer there. It's when you start to get out of it, it gives you the courage to do something again. And I use courage very loosely there, but you're still depressed. Your chemicals are still low, but now you're motivated.
You have the energy.
You have the energy to basically, maybe not motivated, but you definitely have the energy to. And I know a lot of addicts, they'll, like, even myself, I would punish myself for like 2 or 3 days. And then like day 3 or day 4, it's like, all right, where's that reward?
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it's incredible. It's incredible. One thing you have to, or you're supposed to do whenever someone is in a suicidal state, you just ask them.
Mm-hmm.
You
Straight out ask.
Well, it used to be taboo. You never said anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you would say, Trista, are you thinking about suicide?
Yeah.
And then once you say yes, what's your plan?
Which is interesting because, like, when I think back to that, like, no one ever asked me that question when I was going through my lowest point in my life. And I think I would have actually told them, like, yeah, I've been having these thoughts, like, yeah, I'm feeling this, but I was always like the happy, cheerful, strong person. So everyone just assumed that I was fine. And I
never
think
never would have known.
Probably would have done more to help myself. I mean, I read the books, I read the podcast, did all the bullshit that everyone tells you to do when you're grieving. But it doesn't always work in that order for everybody. And everyone does it differently. And I don't know, our family was kind of conditioned when someone dies and everything goes to change, that you just fall apart. You just like fall apart, everything changes, and life is over. And I definitely felt that whenever it was someone so close. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the communication skills at the time, like in my marriage and all of those things. So it literally destroyed me, and I let it because I didn't know how to do it. And that was a big realization, an internal realization that, like, I didn't know how to communicate. Yeah, my feelings, my grief, anything. And that's a skill I had to learn.
I've learned a lot of different ways of communication with the job that I've had for the last 6 months. The same probably handful of kids pretty much at all times. I've talked them off the ledge more times than I could sit here and tell you. I mean, there's only so much you can do or so much you can get a hold of in a placement facility, but there has been kids that have literally slit their wrist and were almost about to bleed to death. Oh. So talking to you guys, as adults is an entirely different platform than trying to talk to a kid that could potentially be your own kid, like the age of your own child. And in thinking that, well, this could be my kid, what am I going to say to her? So I kind of use that mentality of, well, this is what I'd say to her, so this is what I'm going to say to you. And I've learned so many different ways to talk to different personalities, and especially in kids, because all of these kids aren't the same, obviously, in the way they think is not the same. But their thoughts of suicide just come, from what I understand, they just come completely out of nowhere, and their mind is just, I just want to kill myself. What am I going to do today that is going to make me kill myself?
That's the scariest part is the impromptu, like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like, urge right there.
And my
right there
boss
to
is
minute.
like, there we have a kid, and he's ate 2 batteries so far in the last couple weeks. He has ate a half a stick of deodorant. Like, he's a hot mess. But this kid's like 300 pounds. My bosses are like, if he does anything and he's going crazy, tackle him. So the way that the units go in a T. This kid's on this unit right here. I'm over here. He runs out the unit, down my unit. So I'm like, I'm still to tackle him. So I just jump on this kid's back, and he carries me down the hallway
You be
to
safe.
the window.
You be safe.
I'm just going to help you here. And he wasn't going to go anywhere. There was nowhere for him to go. But I'm not going to tackle him. How am I going to? I'm only this big.
You got to leave
And
with
then-
your shoulder
and then-
head across.
Yeah, I guess, or I could have went for his legs. But the best part of that, though, I know I'm sitting here laughing, and it's not funny. But the best part of it, though, was after we got him to the ground and everything was situated. Later on, he got back to his unit. He's like, "Did you enjoy your piggyback ride?" Like, I mean, and he wasn't trying to hurt me. He knows I wasn't trying to hurt him. And he's like, I just wanted to go for a run.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. That's all he wanted to do. Was just take a run. I mean, like I said, I know I'm sitting here laughing, but that's the kind of stuff that I deal with.
But at some point, if you don't laugh about it, though, it'll just eat you alive.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to laugh at the
Mhm.
Dukes of Hazzard thing earlier, but it clicked whenever you said about the jump, and I laugh when during. I'm like Dr. Hibbert from The Simpsons. I just can't help but not laugh sometimes.
I laugh at myself all the time.
Yeah.
Like, hey, idiot, you know. But that's where that mindfulness piece comes in as you practice it, you know. And I don't want to talk about, like Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice, but that's what it takes. It's
Mhm.
it's that practice of recognizing that negative thought and saying, hey, dummy, no more.
Yeah.
Stop.
I think
Or just say, hey, Ryan, no more of that.
That's a
Get rid of
Justin
that whole
thing.
negative part.
That's
Hey.
a Justin thing too.
It's
So,
like,
like,
hey, idiot, stop being an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what neurons that fire together wire together.
Okay.
That's some of the books that I've read. That's
Yeah.
that's their little slogan of, you know, my neurons of negative thought. An object in motion will stay in motion
Yes.
until it meets resistance.
Yeah.
You know, so we can have, as human beings, have negative momentum. It's switching that pendulum to make it positive momentum.
Which for a lot of people, they never do. Like, that's a lot of people, if they get in that negative, like that negative talk, it's hard for them to ever, like, not to get out of the victim mindset. You know what I mean? So I'm reading a book called Do Hard Things, and he talks about, like, some people are motivated by negative self-talk, and they don't force them to change it, but they said that the people that learn to change it into being like, instead of saying, hey, idiot, hey, Ryan, you can do this, you got this, whatever. So
Yeah, and David Goggins is huge into that.
yes.
You know?
Yes.
And he's a lunatic when it
Absolutely.
comes to
David Goggins, yeah, I don't believe him. He's too much. He says that when your body's worn out, it is you're only at 40%. Not that I don't believe him, but man, I have a tough time because when my body's worn out, it's worn out.
I mean, I kind of wanted to throw this in here too. I don't know if this might be a little completely switching gears, but I've noticed that since I've moved out of this room into my own place, I'm so much farther away. We don't talk like we used to. And I'm also not doing the things for myself that I used to. I'm not going to therapy anymore. I mean, I still see my psych doctor or whatever, but I don't have personal conversations with either of the two of you anymore.
It happens less
And-
for sure.
I mean, what I'm saying is I'm just not working on myself like I used to whenever I was in the midst of my people.
Mhm.
Now I'm farther away from my people, and I'm farther away from everything that I've worked on.
You
I'm not
got
saying that it's going downhill. I'm just saying, just not doing what I used to be doing.
you gotta do it though. You have to.
Or find more people that are make them your people too. You know, you moved, so like look for the people that are in the same mindset too.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because you are building a life. Like, our goal wasn't to like keep you locked in this basement and keep you here.
Right,
Our
right,
goal
right.
was to train
Clean
you
your
into
kitchen.
the life skills, and you know, you blossomed. You outgrew this space,
Yep.
and you grew into your own life, and that's good. You're taking the skills that you learned and you're applying them in your personal life.
Yeah.
Now look for people that are like-minded too. And it doesn't mean that you're not part of the group. It just means that you're blossoming into your own, and that's something to be celebrated. Not only
It really
you
is.
don't
And
look bad at it. Like, don't look
Yeah.
at it in a negative light, but that's something to be celebrated.
Yeah.
I have made a few very good friends at work that I can literally say anything to about anything with no judgment. So that's nice. But
there are therapists everywhere.
Yeah.
Get a therapist. I still go to a therapy. I go bi-monthly.
mhm.
And I just like having an outlet where I'm not putting any of my stressors and stuff on the people that I love, because
Right.
I want to talk about like good things with them, and not only be like, I'm feeling this, I know this might not be real, but this is what I'm feeling inside. And like, I want to have a third party talk to me about that and like talk me in and out, and not someone being like, you're right, this person sucks. Like, I want them to
Yeah.
tell me, maybe you could have handled that better.
Mhm.
And that's what my therapist does for me, and I like having that third party in my life.
It just keeps
Yeah.
it real.
Yeah, and it keeps like, when people always come to you with their problems, and you pick up the phone some days and you're like, I love you, but oh my God. Like, we all, like, everyone has those people in their lives. You're like, if you talk to a therapist, we would get to more conversations where it's just about our relationship and not about all of life's
Yeah.
stressors.
Yeah, and
You
I think
talk-
as a spouse, it's very important to not
Yeah.
put all your weight on your spouse, and you're supposed to let them in, but to be able to come home from work every single day and bam, 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 it's negative.
Mhm.
You need to put the weight on a therapist.
So how do we like? I don't even know how to say this. So say I go home and I do that to Jesse all the time. I also want to know how his day is. I don't care if it was bad. I don't care if it was good. I don't care about any of that. But I want to know how his day is too. So I need to, I guess, stop myself from blabbing about doing this, that, and the third at work, because I want to know about his day too. But he's very like, work here, home here.
He doesn't mix them up.
No, he
Respect
just
that.
does. I mean, I do, but I also want to know how your day was.
But I mean, that is frustrating. That's how it was when I was married, and it took me a long time to understand that he had a lot of frustrations at work that he didn't want to bring to me. But it at the time, it felt to me like I wasn't important enough to share
Yeah.
his day with.
Yes.
And then, but I made it about me, and it wasn't about me. It was about him, where he was like, listen, I deal with this shit all day. I don't want
Yes.
to talk about it now. This is my happy space.
Yeah.
And until we
Okay.
had real conversation about it later, in our divorce, which sucks that it took that long for us to be able to communicate, it was when he was like, no, like, I just didn't want you to have to worry about all the things that I worry about. Like this, you were like the safe space for me. And then when I understood that, I was like, well, shit, like, I made that about me, and it wasn't about me at all. And so just, like, was your day good? Like,
Mhm.
easy. Like, did you, how was lunch today? Small conversations where you get to be involved,
Mhm.
but he's also not jamming problems down your throat. And, like,
Right.
that makes it makes a good balance. And like, limit yourself to like 1 to 2 things to tell him about that happened at work, like where you're not constantly emotionally dumping on someone,
Yeah.
because that's exhausting too.
I do tend to do that a little more than I should.
And remember for these guys too, they might talk to you about this, but they just might not talk to you daily about it. It might come out in a week. You have to be sensitive to when you're on a subject like that and they start to talk.
Yeah, but
Let them talk. Don't like, let me relate to you real quick.
Yeah.
Or let me help you fix that.
Yeah.
Correct. And that
But I don't want to keep saying, well, can you tell? Will you tell me? Will you tell me? Will you tell me? And then they're finally like, well, she won't shut the up, so I'm just going to tell her.
That sounds like a you problem.
Yeah.
so in the AA and the Celebrate Recovery programs that I've participated in, they specifically say in the guidelines, we are here to listen to one another. We're not here to fix one another.
Mhm.
Leaving the fixing one another to the professionals.
Mhm.
But we all get 5 to 6 minutes to say life is good, life sucks. This is what that stuff looks like, and then we end saying, thank you for letting me share.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then move on. We, as you get more and more people sitting around the circle, we designate after the meeting to have those conversations of, hey, I've been there. I know how you're feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but we're not there to fix one another. We're just there as a safe space to get that crap off our chest so we can get rid of it. Like that book that I sent you, Drop the Rock.
Yeah.
That was a game changer to me. I had to, during my self inventory, I had to learn to identify what rocks were dragging me down and to get rid of those rocks.
Speaking of rocks, what'd you bring with you?
So, me being a ditch digger, I'm always looking at the ground. I'm looking at utilities. I'm just always looking. But this rock.
Can you hold it up? Your can's in the way. There you go.
Sorry. These are two different aspects of my life. When I was drunk and no one wanted to be around me, sharp, jagged, very rough. I don't know how many people walked away from me because I was miserable myself inside, and no one wanted to hang around with me. Even my drinking buddies were like,
too much,
overbearing, negative, like a negative Nancy. That's who I was, because
Karen.
life sucked. In
Karen's different. Nancy's negative. Karen's
a bitch.
yeah.
But even my hunting buddies were like, we don't even want to be around you right now because you're so pissed off at the world.
Well, did you tell them? I tried to talk to you guys about this.
Mm.
I didn't.
Yeah. No, I mean, and everything worked out for you, but it's like these are the people I reached out to help for, and now I'm like this, and no one.
And this is a
did
now
anything.
rock.
Yeah.
That one.
And this is nice and polished, and it's been through the trough. It's been beat up by waves. Beat up by life, and I was able to pull myself out of that trough. And hopefully now I'm just upticking. Like a roller coaster, and I'm hopefully pleasant to be around.
Yeah.
And making a difference.
Sure.
In
And I noticed
lives.
that rock's bigger too. You've grown since then.
Well, when
Yeah,
me and Trista
absolutely.
when me and Trista come up on the porch, he said, "I don't want to shake your hand. Can I hug you?"
Well, he knows you guys. He's listened to your videos. You guys haven't.
I don't know him though.
Yeah.
That's funny. Whenever you do listen to a podcast, I have a favorite one, and it's like after a while, you feel like you feel like you're friends. Like you listen to this stuff, and it replaces conversation sometimes.
Yeah, in where I work with Joe, when I newly got hired, we have a hubbub of people in the office, people coming and going out of the field, and it was just like a dispatch almost, right? And when people would walk in, I would ask, "Hey, how are you today?" No matter, I would ask that question to 20 different people. Hey, how are you? How are you? How are you? And my boss was standing there observing weeks on end. And he looks at me one day and he was like, "Ryan, you are the only person that legitimately cares. You legitimately care when you ask that question."
Yeah, because most of the time it's a throwaway.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
An icebreaker conversation.
Sure.
"Hey man, how are you?"
Yeah. Good.
I
And then they go on.
try to be legit, and he was like, "You really are trying to make a difference just by your persona."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Absolutely," because the shoe is on the other foot now that I'm sober. Like, I legitimately care about how people are mentally, physically, where they're at in life. Are they struggling with a relationship at the house? How are they with their spouses? How are they with their kids? How are they in a holistic approach? Are you bringing your A game today?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you being that C player because you're trying to almost juggle too many things at the same time? Are you trying to juggle your relationship, trying to keep your relationship intact at the house? Are you trying to be a good boss over here juggling this ball? Maybe a kid is struggling in school, being bullied or whatnot. Maybe they have a crappy teacher that they don't,
I do the same thing with my athletes at the gym. Like, that's a big one for me when we start just to warm up. "Hey guys, how was your weekend? What'd you do today?" And it gives me that feeler. And if you're like personal training with people will open up to you. I have people that text me about their, like, what's going on in their life. And most of the time when I know people well enough, can read the room, I can read people's energy, and I'm like, all right, something's going on with them today. I know that they're not going to give me 100% in this workout, and I'm not going to push them for it because something is off. Something is off with them. And that's a really cool feeling to know that you read people, you're understanding. And like, because most of the time, if you're not 100% at work, people are mad at you for it. And I think we're all human. We all have to have that grace that we
Mhm.
have to give that grace to people, because there are days that we're all not 100% at work because something is happening that's important to us, but we don't necessarily share with everyone we speak with.
Correct. There's only been one perfect human being to walk the earth, and that was Jesus, and none
Sure.
of us are Jesus.
Right. Right.
You know, there are things.
Yeah.
Life.
Everything comes up. I wanted to go back while we have the opportunity to it and talk about you brought up neural pathways earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, like, quitting smoking or making changes, I always thought it was really important to create new memories of you doing that. And you can literally rewire your brain to think those things. And we do a positive intelligence course right now. And one of them is whenever you're having negative, when you're having bad thoughts, when you do that, take a few seconds, do some concentrate on your breath, but like take your hands and make sure you can like feel the outside of your fingers on both sides and put your hands together. And it's 2 minutes. And when you do that, you're going to get distracted, but it's also taking a pause from that negativity and building, he says, what's he called, a superhighway, Trista? Is that what he said? I think it was from one neuron to the other.
I don't remember.
Maybe I'm getting mixed up on another one, but he basically it rewires itself uh, to eventually you can start thinking positively, and then when you get in these bad moments, you can remember like, oh yeah, I can do this, I can do that. I thought that was really important.
The one too is like looking at a trauma that like, or something bad that happened to your life. Doesn't have to necessarily be a trauma. They actually tell you don't go too far into traumas unless you're with like a professional.
Sure.
But looking at, you know, how something bad happened in your life and like what good came out of it. What did you learn from it? How did you grow? And going back and listening to this meditation and being mindful of your body as you're going through this, like you can rewire of like, this isn't just a bad thing that happened. Like this is something that I've learned. It brought good in my life too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, finding the positive even in our bad situations in life. And that's something I think by gratitude is that that's one of the things on the board is like, be grateful, you know, like practicing gratitude. I think even for the bad stuff that happened, it's somehow leading to light somewhere.
Correct. It's recognizing the triggers, both good and bad.
Correct. And it does talk about like going back into those bad things that happened in meditation and basically creating a new neural pathway.
Correct.
Where it's not just all like devastation and terrible, where you can kind of fix that and correct it.
Yeah. We're about 55 minutes in. Do you guys want to talk about being grateful? We'll end on something positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we all have a ton of things to be grateful for. And when you're having a bad day, you can let a 10-minute bad conversation ruin 24 hours, 2350. But if you have a 10-minute of a positive, it's 10 minutes. And it's very important to focus on those things because you can create the neural pathways to say, I am good enough, I am smart enough. Like Stuart Smalley, I'm good enough, smart enough, people like me.
I mean, I have so many like conversations in my life that people try to bring me down on purpose or just have a negative comment from somebody that I work with or a kid or a resident that makes me just like want to punch them in the face. But my feelings for that are like, you know what? I'm grateful that I have this job. I have to reel it back and make myself understand that you've come how far. Now I have a job. Now you're able to actually talk to kids and de-escalate them. You're able to stay calm and try to help them figure out why they're not calm. Try to give them things for them kids to be grateful for, not just me and my life and the things that I'm personally grateful for. I mean, I could probably sit here for the next 20 minutes and tell you all the things that I'm grateful for. But it's nice to be able to have a conversation with somebody and hear from them what they're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether it's just being able to color with the markers rather than crayons.
Yeah.
Because that's a big deal to some kids.
Yeah. And we all wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't have things to be grateful for
Sure.
because we've all taken dark paths, and that those things you're grateful for is what got us back on track. And I think that's important. What do you have, Ryan? What do you have to be grateful for?
I'm so blessed.
Yes.
I can't even describe it in enough adjectives in Webster's dictionary of how blessed I am.
Yeah.
Granted, my circle of friends has gotten smaller because I'm a little bit older. Obviously, I moved away, but there's nothing that I could ask for that would make me more fulfilled. Like my heart is full. Like I have people that love me. I'm sober. I have a roof over my head. I have a vehicle that is drivable. You know,
Tacoma,
I'm not
just like me.
I'm not living in my truck anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point in my life, I was homeless essentially because I was so busy chasing that alcohol or running from the demons of my life. I have a good job. I, I'm just so blessed. And then like today, I'm so thankful that you guys gave me this opportunity.
No,
Yeah,
it's
we're glad you're
fantastic,
here.
and I definitely, now that you came on once, you have to come on twice.
Oh,
That was
sure.
that didn't.
Yeah, I think we should have a part two.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, for
I'll do
sure.
that any day.
Trista, what are you grateful for?
I kind of the same answer. Coming up on 9 years of owning my business, survived a pandemic. People that have stuck with me through the entirety of my career.
Mhm.
And I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful even for the losses in my life that I've learned lessons from them, and I've learned to be a better human from the losses that I've had. Grateful for my mental health being in check.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that, through the pandemic and I really struggled with. And, being able to afford healthcare and having those things in my life that I can do that, because not everyone has that either. This one chokes me up because it's stuff I write down all the time. And I mean, just having people that love and believe in me and people that trust me.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's priceless.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, people that trust me, that's a big one for me too. I never had, I don't want to say never, but I can't remember the last time I had someone that actually trusted me.
prior to, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We left. At least leave it on a little positive note. Anyways, we all have something
Yeah.
to grateful for, and one thing we try to express here is don't listen to us because we think we're going to give you superpowers or anything like that. Like don't these are you can have a good life even if you've had bad parts of your previous life.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just more tools in your pouch.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's all they are. I thought that was really interesting earlier when you said you talked to this person, that person, different pastors, and it was of all the people you talked to, 0 of them was it their responsibility to help you.
Mm-hmm.
It was your responsibility to take what they said and help yourself. I really like
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, that's it, guys. Thanks for joining us. This was good. I will do it again sometime.
Thank you,
All
Ryan.
right.
All right,
Thanks, Ryan.
thanks, guys. All right, love you guys.
Love you
Bye.
too. Bye.
Go outside.